Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
And I would like to introduce our H&I speaker, Stewart D. from Woodland Hills.
What, no hug?
I'm a little sweaty, but...
I'm Stewart, I'm an alcoholic. And I would like to thank the committee for having the poor judgment to ask me here today. And I want to thank you for all the very gracious accommodations and your welcoming and the hotel suite and the welcome basket. That welcome basket's got everything. It's got batteries in it. Somebody found out I love peanuts. It's got peanuts in it. It's got a notebook. It's got water. It's got all kinds of things in there. I'm not sure what the switchblade is for. In the beautiful hotel room with the full kitchen and the jacuzzi in the room. But really, the bottle of champagne, that was not necessary. I want to tell you how I started my day. I came down the elevator, and there was a little family got on the elevator with me. A young mom, young dad, two little boys, and a baby in arms. And the biggest of the little boys, maybe, I don't know, 4 years old, he started talking to me, and he said, oh, that's our baby. I said, well, that's nice. He said, our other baby's in heaven. And went down the elevator when we got out, and they started to get a little raucous. Nothing out of line, but it got a little bit noisy, and there was a woman in the lobby that kind of snarled her lip and said, oh, children are nice if they belong to somebody else. And I looked right at her. I said, he just told me his little brother's in heaven. And her whole countenance changed. It changed her mind. She went, oh. You know, you look at people, we look at people, or I look at people and I make certain assumptions. A lot of the times I'm right. But you don't know what people go through. You just don't know. So there's that little green slip of paper that's on so many of our literature racks. It says how to avoid playing God. And that helped me so much. I kept it in my wallet for many years. I still keep a piece of it around, and I think the number one thing is it says, withhold judgment at all times. Never discount the other person's good intentions. Well, sometimes that's hard to do, because some people, I just hate them. But sometimes I hate somebody, and then I get to know them a little better and find out why they are the way they are. And my mind gets changed. And I love that. The whole program of alcohol is, AA is about change. The old saying, if you like what you're getting, keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting it. And when I did my steps, I wrote on a piece of paper all my defects of character. And on the other side, we've got something that's very, very heavy, and that is the willingness to change. If I don't have that, I got nothing. Coffee's important to me. My needs are simple. I need a cup of coffee. So Diane came down the elevator, and we took our walk. We walked in the sunshine, and we could feel the wind and the sun on us, and we walked, and we talked, and we walked, and talked for a couple of miles before we came over to the convention. And it was wonderful. I can feel today. What? Did I do something wrong? Did I screw this up already? No. Oh, I didn't mean that now. I got my coffee, but more would always be welcome. Anyway, we took our walk, and that's my life today. But it is the H&I panel, and I'm going to talk about H&I and how, there are things in this program. The last thing I'm going to try and do is convince these people here in this auditorium that AA is a good thing. I don't think I need to do that. That's already been done, or you wouldn't be here. But what I can do is share some hope, strength, and experience, and a little bit of what it's like to be me. I'm a native of California. I grew up in Inglewood, California, near the intersection of 104th and Van Ness. And that is very near where the 1965 Watts riots took place. And yes, I was there. And the National Guard was out in force. They were they were cordoned off, right? When I mean cordoned off, they're standing with machine guns. It's blocked off, truckloads of them. I drove up to the barricade and I said, "Would you move that?" He says, "Where do you think you're going?" I said, "Well, I live in there." And they said, "You're crazy." But I didn't know I lived in the ghetto, but it was the ghetto. I mean, and it was on. It was very violent, and I grew up in a violent place with a violent family. My family had a lot of fights. I don't mean arguments. I mean fights. Bloody, knockdown, drag out, violent fights. And I didn't know any better. I don't know any better, but I am the alcoholic. And I don't think that's got anything to do with my drinking. Because I like the effect. I would have been an alcoholic no matter what, because the first time I drank it was at a Bon Voyage party on the Princess Cruises, because my folks were going away to Hawaii and leaving the kids to fend for themselves, as it were. So I guess I was maybe 12 years old, and I had a sip of that champagne. The next thing you know, I got the bottle. I got the whole bottle, right? And it was on. And I just loved it. I loved the effect. And I like to say that I want to clear up any misconception that alcoholics are not against alcohol. Nobody appreciates a good drink of alcohol like an alcoholic. And the book says we must be careful never to show intolerance of drinking as an institution, and it is an institution. And I belong to another fellowship, and they drink there. And I'm there every Thursday night, and they drink every Thursday night. But they drink normally. They have one or two with dinner, and that's it. They get friendly, they get a little warm glow, they get a little bit friendly, but that's it. They don't drink like I do. And I haven't busted my anonymity to them, and they keep saying, "Stu, can I buy you a drink?" There's a bar, right? They got a tiki bar right in there, the Adventurers Club, right? Jean's been there. My wife's been there. Tiki bar. "Can I buy you a drink, Stu?" "No, that's okay." And the guy looks at me, he says, "One of these days I'm going to figure you out." Well, he'll be the first one, I guess. I don't know. But it's one of those horizons that was opened up for me by the good offices of Alcoholics Anonymous, because my world was getting pretty small. I went to high school at Morningside High School there in Inglewood, which was, I took auto shop because that's where you figure out how to steal a car and boost the engine out and Jones the engine. Take the money and go to the racetrack. Maybe rob a couple of apartments. buy some goodies, find an empty apartment, and have a party. That's what that's what I was about, and I loved that. And I was always an early morning drinker. I never read that part about you're not supposed to drink in the morning. Oh, that's like the first thing I did, because I do not like. I'm a pleasure seeker and a pain avoider. I don't like hangovers. I don't like withdrawals. I'm going to I'm going to avoid that as long as I can. So the hair of the dog, I'm there. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning, and sometimes, as the drinking progressed, and I found out about the progression, the sicker I got, the earlier I had to start. So sometimes I'd be up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, drink a couple of beers, go back to bed for an hour, take some aspirins so I could get well to go to work. So as time went on, I got a job in the art department in Hollywood in a design company, and I could wear my, you'll be happy to know I'm having a good hair day today. But then I had like the long hair and the Levi's and the Greek sandals, and I could smoke grass and drink on the job, and I just loved it. It was rock and roll, and I'd go to all the record companies each day and make deliveries, smoke a joint on the way, drink a beer, and just put a little Visine in the eyes, so get rid of the red and the Banaka on the breast so the man doesn't know what I've been doing, and just do my job, and it was fantastic. I loved it. And right there on Sunset Boulevard, and I would talk about the progression because it was fun. It was great. And as time went on, I started to have all the little problems that drinkers get, right? Start getting arrests. The trick with those arrests is you want to space those out so that you don't always get the same judge, right? You want to space them out so that you get one cleaned up before you get the next one, before they start stacking up on each other. But also the denial. I would go to the probation officer, and he would send me to the AA clinic down there near La Brea and Santa Monica, in that area. I could walk to it from work, which was nice. And right on the side of the building, and by this time I'm early 20s, maybe 20 years old, and on the side of that building, good 3-foot letters, right? It says County of Los Angeles Alcoholism Treatment Facility. And I would go in there and they'd give me the antabuse. And I just hated that lady that made me take the antabuse, because she had this desk and she had a basket of stuff. She had her books, she had her walker, her water, her knitting, her crochet, her everything, kitten and everything, all this stuff stacked around here. And I just hated her, and she looked at me and made me take that pill, right? So you can't drink on top of it. And she made sure, very humiliating. That's what I didn't like about it. Humiliating. She made me swallow that pill. You make sure you swallow that right now. We have to go there every day and make sure that I took that pill. And that's antabuse. That means you can't drink on top of that. You'll have to go. I'm sure somebody has, and I'm sure people do. But the problem with that antabuse is it doesn't fix what's wrong with me. Because whenever I'm taking that antabuse, all I'm thinking is, how do I get over, around, through, or past this to get till I cannot wait to drink again. I can't wait. I'm thirsty. Finally, she says, okay, I trust you. I trust you to take this at home now. You don't have to come back anymore. So you have to wait the prescribed time. I don't know what it is, 24 hours or 48 hours for it to go out. And a cold beer never tasted so good as that, I can tell you that. The progression. Early one morning, I got out of the county jail downtown. What? What is she saying? You want some water? Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, okay, is that better? Very directional. I got out of the county jail downtown, and I ran. I didn't walk to the nearest liquor store. I ran to it. I could not wait to get. I was not learning what was wrong with me. So all these things are happening. The car crashes, the arrest, and finally my health starts to go. And by this time, in Hollywood, they're having what they call the Artists and Models Balls, where all the designers and artists would come together and the pretty girls and everything, and they would, a lady would introduce me to her friend, and she'd say, "This is Stewart, and Stewart's a drunk." And I felt about that big, and I just hated that. Now, some people like being called a drunk. I don't like being called a drunk. I hated it. I couldn't get away from it. It was very humiliating. I'm not a drunk today. I'm a sober member of Alcoholics, and that is all the difference for me. But I just couldn't get away from it. And I sought out doctors on my own in Hollywood, and I had a friend who was a heroin addict who also used to drink with me. He said, "Let's go to this doctor. He'll help you with your drinking problem." I should have been suspicious, but I wasn't. But we went down to this doctor, and it was a horrible place. It was like an old office with like a barber chair that was wrapped up with duct tape, and then like a naked light bulb coming down, and this doctor, he was kind of, so he had a big needle, right? And he gave me, you lay back in that chair, and he gives you a shot, right? Make me feel fantastic. Oh, man, I don't know what's in that, doctor, but it feels fantastic. I said, "Hey, you got anything I can take home with me?" And the doctor said, "Oh, yes, this is Tuinol." He says, "Take this." And right on the side of it, right, it says, "Don't take this with alcohol." Well, what's that mean? What's that mean to somebody who likes to drink? That means, oh, this is like the extra bonus points, right? You know I'm going there. Well, the lights went out that night. I'm having blackouts. I'm having many, many blackouts. I didn't even know what a blackout was. I just thought I went to sleep. No, I wasn't going to sleep. People say the next day at work, "Stewart, do you know what you did last night?" That is one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard. No, I don't know what I did last night, but I know it ain't going to be good. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. I hate that sound. You fell into the Christmas tree at the office party. Oh, well, that's not so bad. Or you ruined those people's wedding. or by this time it's on, and my coworker picked me up. I was in a total blackout wandering the grassy median in San Vicente Boulevard. I was wandering down there in a complete blackout, and my coworker's driving down the street, and he sees me walking, and he picks me up and puts me in his car, and he takes me home and puts me in my bed. And to this day, I don't remember a thing. Complete blackout. "Stewart, don't you know what you did yesterday?" No. But I just couldn't leave it alone. So then people start saying to me, "Why don't you just leave it alone?" I don't know. What's wrong with me? When I was 17 years old, my father, who was an alcoholic, a terrible drunk, I met him when I was 17 years old. And he came to me, and he said, "Stewart, I've got a year of sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous." His name was Jack Dietz, and he lived in Lancaster. And I didn't see him again for another, 25 years? 25, 30 years. I did not see him again for another 25, 30 years. But eventually, I got to know him while he lived in Lancaster, and he had 25 years in recovery in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. He was the manager of the Arid Club over there by the railroad tracks. After 25 years of sobriety, he stopped going to meetings. And for some people, I don't have to finish that story. He had a huge piece of property out here right on Lancaster Boulevard, 1600 Lancaster Boulevard, with like a shack on it, and 13 cars. And one night he called me, and he gave me the code, the access code, security code to get into his house. A few hours later that night, his friend called me and said, "Jack's dead. So will you come out and take care of the body?" So I drove out to Lancaster. By this time, I'm sober, maybe, 10, 15 years sober? Something like that. And I came out to take care of the body. I had to wait a long time for the hearse to come, or the funeral home to come. And they were short-handed. I had to help them put him in the black bag. And he was just sitting at his desk. And he had drank himself to death, and apparently he knew he was drinking himself to death because he called me and gave me the code. And there was maybe 30 of those, the plastic vodka bottles, a half gallon with the one big one with a handle on it, So it was a long night. Finally, they came and I helped move the body, and I could have been angry because he had drank up a fortune. He drank up a family fortune, destroyed 2 families, got sober for 25 years, and then he drank again. I thought, well, how could you do this? You know better. Why would you do this again? But that's what we do. So I used a huge labor-saving device. I decided not to be resentful. I can decide I'm not going to be angry, I'm not going to be resentful, because then you got to go through that whole 10-step thing, write it down, the inventory and all of that, and I just cut that out because it saves a huge amount of paperwork. This is what we do. And the only people that came to his funeral were some members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if anybody happens to be here that was there, I want to thank you very, very much, because only a few people showed up, maybe 3, 4, 5 people from Alcoholics Anonymous showed up, but they were like the only people. And it meant the world. It meant the world to us. And they came up to me and said, Jack helped a lot of people. What else can you say? So I know I'm jumping around here, but you people are used to piecing this together, so I'm okay with that. So I'm still in Hollywood, and I'm drinking. I'm getting near the end of my disease, and I'm standing in front of the bar at 6 o'clock in the morning, because that's when they open, right? And for some reason, I didn't have anything to drink, and I'm there before the sun's coming up at that time of year. It's a gray dawn, the sun's coming up, and the bartender comes with the keys, and he opens up the bar, and I get in there, and he knows what I need, right? Brings me 2 right away, and I look up and down that bar. I'm maybe 22 years old, and I look up and down the bar and say to myself, man, am I really one of these pathetic early morning drunks? Because these people are pathetic. Well, I guess I am. I guess I am, and there don't seem to be a damn thing I can do about it. Because I got to get well, and I just drink it down so I can get well to go to work. And I don't know about hopeless, but I guess I was getting there. Because there didn't seem to be any way out. There didn't seem to be any solution. But my friend said, I want to talk about that marijuana maintenance program right now. Because my friend said, Stewart, you're a cool guy until you start drinking. Why don't you just smoke marijuana? I said, that's a great idea. I love weed. That's one of the reasons I did burglaries, right? So I could buy it wholesale. Cut out the middleman. I strive for efficiency. So I tried that. The book talks about we tried every conceivable way to control and enjoy our drinking. And just smoking marijuana was one of my ways. And that lasted about 2 hours, because as soon as I smoke a joint, I get thirsty. And I mean thirsty for either wine or beer, and pretty soon I'm back to the bourbon, and I'm back in the hospital wondering what happened and what's wrong with me. And the other way to control my drinking, limiting the number of drinks. That works too, right? Until the first one, which opens the floodgate. It's like it's just like the Greeks with the horse, right, that comes into the city. The first one comes in, he opens up the gate, and everybody's coming in. Just no stopping it. So I was near the end here, and when I met Diane, who I adore, by the way, and I enjoyed our walk, and I enjoyed our time this morning. And my mother works at the racetrack for many years. Those waitresses make serious money out there. In the Brazilian room, right? Private club, coat and tie, always. She calls me up, she said, my mother was a natural-born marketing person. She calls me up and she says, Stewart, I met a pretty girl out here, but I don't think she's very bright. And that's what a young guy likes to hear, right? Because I don't have that high of a self-image anyway. And then she told Diane, who was already friends with my mother, Polly, right? She tells Diane, my son makes a lot of money and he'll spend it on you. Here's his card, give him a call. At this time I live, perfect, right? So at this time I live in Silver Lake. I got no license, right? I got a car, but I got no driver, right? Because I'm drinking and driving and I crash, I'm in the judge, I'm taking the bus and riding my bikes to school and drinking beer on the way. Just, what do they call that, the maintenance drinking? Just like trying to hold on, right? Trying to keep it together. So we went on a blind date. I manipulated Fast Eddie to be my chauffeur, right? And my chauffeur took me to, he took us to, at that time, Moro's in Glendale, right on Glendale Boulevard, Moro's Italian restaurant. Well, the maitre d' happened to be a drinking buddy of mine. He was like a maitre d' on the Princess Cruises, right? So I had the fix was in, right? He's a guy from Ustica by Sicily, little island. So we go in there, and he's like hovering the whole time, you know, make sure everything, very romantic, very nice. And of course, I'm not driving, I'm still drinking, but that date went okay, right? I thought, wow, this is really, I remember the first time I walked up and knocked on her door. She was at a rooming house in Altadena and knocked on the door, and out she comes in a blue dress, a blue knit dress. Now, fantastic. I can't believe my luck, right? So, really nice restaurant. And then I think on our next date, it was like a total disaster. Oh my God, it was a total disaster. I was true to form. We went to see Annie at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, right? And by the time we got there, I was just wasted, right? I had her drive because I wasn't driving. We got to the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and we got there just as they locked it. You can't come in once it starts, right? The musical. And by this time, I've been drinking about 3 gallons of beer. I got to pee so bad, like I'm wetting my pants right now. Oh, this is a disaster, right? So I don't know what happened that night, but I thought, well, she's never going to talk to me again, right? But alcoholic men have an uncanny ability for choosing good women. About 30 or 40 years later, we were married. Very quickly. As soon as she got certified for her scuba certification, because that was a prerequisite, right? Because I love to scuba dive, and I wanted her to go with me. So as soon as she got her certification, then we went to the little brown church in the valley on Coldwater Canyon, where everybody who's anybody has been married, and we got married there. And the reception was in the old Villa Capri in Hollywood. And we tore that place up. It was just like, we're still drinking by this time, right? It was a very colorful first year. We got married and we drank together for a year. It was a very colorful year. We're screaming at each other and throwing the crystal. We broke all the glasses by screaming and throwing them at each other. I don't know what the neighbors thought. Thanksgiving of that year, she drove me to Hollywood Community Hospital. We didn't know it was wrong. But I was green, I was in agony, I couldn't stand up. You better go to the hospital. No. You better go to the hospital. No. You better go to the hospital. I'm a guy, I don't like to go to the hospital. That's a guy thing, I guess. But finally, I was in such agony, she took me to the hospital, and I was there for 10 days, Hollywood Community Hospital. And the doctors did some very rude and undignified things to me. I finally found out that, well, you got acute pancreatitis, and this condition is fatal. You can never, the doctor said, we usually find this condition in the advanced stages of alcoholic, but we think you're too young to be an alcoholic. Whew. Right? He says, by the way, how much do you drink? Well, I lied to him, right? Diane said, Stewart, you lied your ass off. I did? I don't know I'm lying, but we just do it so naturally. Why do I do it? I have to lie. I have to lie. I can't tell him how much I drink. We're going to tell him I drink from the morning till the time. I said, oh, Doc, a couple of six-packs on the weekend, you know. He says, just the same with this condition, you can never take it. You can never take another drink. If you take another drink, you will die. I have to lie to him because if I tell him the truth, I'll have to quit. And I can't do that. I've tried. I've tried that. So after 10 days of that, I get out and I go back. Where's the time? If I want to run over, where am I? Plenty of time. Outstanding. So, catharsis, right? It's all coming to a head. A crashing crescendo. Now, if you looked at it on a graph, you know, these crises, it's going up, right? One crisis to another crisis to another crisis. At the end there, it's all one crisis. They're all collapsing into another, like an accordion. It's every day it's a crisis. There's no escaping. And so I'm right in the office on Sunset Boulevard at lunchtime, everybody clears out, and I'm sitting there at my drawing board looking at the clock. I haven't had a drink in ages. I'm out of the hospital. I'm feeling better. I know there's a liquor store in the alley, around the alley behind the studio. And I know for certain I could get around and get ice cold beer and belt it down and get back here, and no one will ever know. One beer's not going to hurt. I never go to the hospital for one beer. I never get arrested for one beer. I never crash the car for one beer. I'll just have one beer. I go to that alley and I'm drinking it out of a brown paper bag in the alley like this, and it starts to come back up, and I force it back down because I got to have it. My body's crying out for alcohol. I force it down. I run back, get to my desk, and I sit down, and the relief that comes at once with the alcoholic. I don't think normal people get that. They don't get that. But it was just like all the floodgates. It's like having a massage. It's just, fantastic, fantastic. You know what? That only took a few minutes. I could get back around that alley and have another one and get back here, and no one will ever know. Christmas of that year, I'm back in the hospital. Again, she drives me to the hospital, and she did save my life because I would have died. The doctor said that. He should have been here sooner. This time, back in the Hollywood Community Hospital, this time they bring the old doctor. He's got white hair. He knows, he's seen 1,000 like me. He says, you're a full-blown alcoholic. There's nothing we can do for you. You have to stop drinking. That's it. He didn't say go to AA. He's probably said that a million times, but he didn't bother with me. So back to the office I go. Same drill. I thought, I'll try this one more time. I got so much invested. When I take that first drink, it looses me out with the obsession. It's just on. So finally, again, the boss calls me in. By this time, it's coming out of my pores. I'm a liability. This boss is like a father to me. I worked with this guy for 15 years, shoulder to shoulder, and he's like a father to me. He calls me into the office. He says, you're going to treatment. And he turns to her, and he says, you're going too. And I was out of excuses. I couldn't make one more excuse. I couldn't lie one more time. I couldn't promise him one more time. I've been doing that for years. I'd rake this guy over. I put this guy through hell because I was a key employee, and I was just worthless. And I could tell he cared about me. He says, you're going to treatment. Now, I didn't know. I said, well, okay, whatever it is. The fight was gone out of me. He says, you're going to treatment. I don't know what that is. I thought, you're going to go down to Orange County. They're going to take care of you. Don't worry about your job. I think treatment, well, I'm going to get a massage, maybe some hot baths, some vitamins, a spa. I don't know what treatment is. I didn't know you're going to sit around in a circle and get emotionally naked. So we went to treatment together, and Diane came in 2 days later. This is about 1 year. We spent our first wedding anniversary in rehab together. Isn't that a beautiful thing? No, I did not meet her in rehab because people get that, but that's not what happened. We spent it together, and we got sober together. She had her experience there, and I had my experience. We had some together, but it was a very, very painful time, but it was also a time of great, great growth. I told the AA lady, I know if I wasn't so crazy, I know I could stop drinking. I know I could. And she said, no, dummy, if you stop drinking, you won't be so crazy. I couldn't run away from that. The psychiatrist never told me that. The doctor never told me that. I only hear these things in AA. But I could tell she was right. And they began to confirm some things I was beginning to suspect about myself. She told me about the obsession, the first drink that gets you drunk. I said, no, you don't understand. I like a case of Dos Equis, you know, with a quart of Jack Daniels. That's why I get wasted. She said, yes, dummy, but if you're standing on the railroad tracks, it is not the caboose that kills you. It's the first one. And I could just see, I'm an artist. I can make a picture in my mind before I ever draw anything. And I can just see that white hot freight line coming straight at me. And I could, she was totally right. You know, you often hear about, and you read about it, or in the news, you hear about this celebrity or that celebrity is battling alcohol, right? Battling alcohol. There's no battle. How do you battle alcohol? Light it on fire? There's nothing. Throw it up? Pour it down the toilet? There's nothing I can do to hurt alcohol. There's nothing. But on the other hand, alcohol can hurt me very badly, and already has. I tell you one way you don't battle alcohol, and that's by drinking it. When I'm drinking it, I'm not battling it, I'm surrendering to it. And it always wins. There's no battle. He says, it's like a poker game in which you're losing every single hand. Eventually, you just push yourself away from the table, you don't play anymore. That made sense to me, and I loved that. So I got all of that, and out of that experience, Diane and I, kind of like a newborn thing, you know, and I took the steps, and here's the most important thing that I can say today, is I took the steps, and the obsession was lifted. The desire to drink, because I put on the top of my list, please remove from me the desire to drink. And it went away, and it hasn't come back. And that's like the new burst of freedom, and I just love that. And that's new every day. When we go out for a walk, I still enjoy that, and I love that. And that's been my experience, and I will need a little water. I'm getting dry up here. So enough of what it was like. I'm going to be totally in the solution from here on out. So they say don't make any big changes for the first year, right? So I stayed with that company for a year. I worked for that first year, I worked 33 days without pay. I didn't clock in all that time, and that was to make amends to my boss, to put back some of what I took. And after that time was up, I didn't have to look down anymore when I met him in the hallway or something. I could look at that guy as an equal, even though he's my boss, right? There's something now that we're equal, and that is a great freedom. That was a great emotional thing. I guess you could say that's a spiritual experience, and I just love that. And after a year of staying there, not to make that change, Diane had already started a business. I quit that office on Sunset Boulevard. We moved to the San Fernando Valley. We bought a house, and we started a business, and we started going to the clubhouse in Canoga Park. We started a new life after a year. That was a very busy year for us to leave everything behind and come to the valley and started. But we were unafraid, you know. We just went for it. And I will say that we just celebrated 35 years of marriage. And June 7th was our wedding anniversary. And that's pretty awesome, I think. I can't believe my good fortune. I learned so much from the women, and especially my wife. I just can't say enough about her. Aside from saving my life by taking me to the hospital all those times, that was nice. And she taught me something very valuable. Once in a while I listened, and she said, you know, Stewart, you don't have to answer every stupid thing that's said. Because that was like a full-time occupation for me. Every time somebody said something stupid, I have to set them straight and correct them, right? But now I just let them say all the stupid things they want, and I don't have to say anything. And I love that. Thank you for that, Diane. So we built an office in our home. Got a couple kids. We're growing the business. We're doing our AA thing. She's doing her thing. And I kind of drifted away from the fellowship a little bit. I'm still sober and everything. I never drank again, but all day women are calling her and she's talking on the phone and laughing and talking and laughing and having a good time. And I'm over at my desk like I'm over in a sulk, right? And thinking, nobody's calling me. How come nobody's calling me? But I've heard of people growing apart, right? And I could see that happen, and I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want us to grow apart. I didn't want to lose my wife. So whatever my reasons were, I got re-involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. It might have had something to do with that little road rage incident where, where I ran a guy off the road and smashed his window and dragged him out to beat him because he had it coming, you know. And if you have never grabbed someone by the throat and just choked them out until they're losing consciousness, that is a wonderful feeling. That is a fantastic feeling. I recommend it. Just go out and find somebody. But then I got to go in front of the judge, and the judge does not like the look of me, and she lets me know she doesn't like the looks of me. So I cut a deal real fast. They didn't charge me with assault, but it could have been real serious because I had the guy like totally in my power. I could have thrown him off the cliff right there. But something I let go. And I was just eaten up with resentment. The untreated alcoholism, restless, irritable, discontent, angry. I'm a hair trigger. I'm just looking for somebody all week, right? And I ran to that clubhouse, and I thought I had a continuous when they had tapes, right? I had a tape in my gut just eating me up. Righteous anger is the China white of resentment. It's just burning me up inside, and I can't stop thinking about it. And I run to that clubhouse, and I just got my head in my hands, and what am I going to do? And there's two old timers up there at the old clubhouse, and they said, "You know what you got to do." That's all they said. They didn't take me by the hand or poor guy or, "Here, let me take you through." None of that. You know what you got to do. And I did. What I had to do was get reinvested in the steps. Go deeper to the well. Reach down a little deeper, a deeper surrender. And this is a very common experience. A lot of people have this experience, especially with that anger thing. They don't usually take extreme action, but sometimes. But it was a blessing in disguise because I did get invested. I did come back and started doing service because I sat on the bench, a sports analogy. I sat on the bench and let everybody else do the work of Alcoholics Anonymous for years. And eventually the Spirit spoke to me and said, "Get off the bench and get in the game." And that's when I started going to H&I panels. I used to go up to Warm Springs. For years, I would go to Warm Springs. It wasn't my panel, but every month I would go. Every couple of weeks, I'd go up to Warm Springs on this panel, and I loved it, and I loved the guys up there. It was a very spirited meeting in that old bungalow. It's kind of a shaky building, and the inmates, they would pound the table and stomp the floor and holler, and very, very spirited. And I just loved that, and hoopering and hollering, and the thrill that you come there, and it was just very uplifting. I love that. And one week, the panel leader says, "Stewart, we don't need you this month." And I said, "What? Don't need me?" He says, "Yeah, we don't need you this month." And there are times when I think I'm doing God's will, but you don't really know, because sometimes I pray and I don't feel like I'm getting anything. Well, this was one time it was real clear. A voice spoke to me. It said, "Get your own panel. Go get your own panel." So I went to H&I. Then it was on Ventura Boulevard. I went in. I did the what do you call the acclamation, where they give you the do's and don'ts, and then they have the business meeting. The very first order of business was, guy says, "I'm leaving town. I'm giving up my panel at all of you. Psych unit." I said, "I'll take that panel." I came home and told my wife, "Hey, honey, I got the panel at the All of You Psych Unit." And she says, "Stewart, do you remember that's where your dad got sober?" No, I didn't remember That's one hell of a coincidence. I took that panel for many years, and I had a lot of fun up there. I did. I like to tell the grandma story because people like that story, but I'm on the frame. I'm not proud. I'll tell this. So I take my panel up. This is locked down, right? And no matter what those people say, I cannot get angry with them because I know they're sick, right? Some are alcoholics, some aren't. Most of them don't know, but many of them, it will be their very first introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous, and what an honor to bring this message to them. What an honor to be able to bring, because like somebody did it for me. That's a great reason. A pretty young girl comes up to me after the panel, right? She comes up and says, "Oh, Stewart," she says, "I really like your presentation." She says, she twirls her hair, and she bats her eyelashes. She says, "Are you single?" I said, "Well, no, dear, I'm not single. I'm very happily married, thank you." She says, "Oh," she goes, "because my grandma is single." So she just lifted me up, right, and he crushed my spirits, right? And then Gene's sitting right up here. I took him up there. Wonderful, Gene. He's all great on these. Gene will do anything, you know. He's a tragically flawed man, but he has a heart as big as Texas, I'll tell you. So Gene goes on the panel, and you ever heard of Moms Mabley? Moms Mabley is this old black comedian lady with no teeth, right? Well, this character is up there, and Gene's sitting directly across her from on the plastic table, right? This close, right? And I always bring cookies, right? Chocolate cookie, was it chocolate chip, Gene? And Moms Mabley is gumming these cookies until it's a perfect mush, right? And then she sneezes and just totally sprays Gene. Woo. Gene, you got to learn to duck a little quicker. You can't buy this stuff. You can't buy this stuff. And we just, oh man, you saw the look on his face. They can never take that away from me. But you got to admit, it gave you a great story. Oh, he was so pissed. Oh, I love that panel. And I've been going up there for years, you know, and there's this one guy, Vladimir. You know, the scary thing is, some of these people, they're on Jupiter, and you know they're on Jupiter. But some of you talk to them for 6 months or so, you get to know them, you think they're pretty well stable. And that was Vladimir. I've always had a rational conversation with Vladimir. I come up one night, and he says, "Hey, Stewart," he says, "Look, this sobriety thing is great, this recovery thing." I says, "I want to try that." And he says, "I want you to help me. I want you to help me, Stewart." I said, "Well, I'll be glad to, Vladimir. Anything I can do, let me know." He says, "Here's the thing." He says, "I'm trying to have sex with all the women on this floor, and the staff won't help me." He says, "I want you to direct the staff to help me have sex with all these women on this floor." And I didn't miss a beat. You know, we intuitively know how to handle events that situations that used to baffle us. Right out of the book, I said, "Vladimir, we have no opinion on outside issues." And I felt very proud of myself, right? Because it just came. And Vladimir says, "No, not outside, in here, in here." Oh, man. One guy, he was such a young punk. Thought he was a tough guy, right? It looked to me like he should be in the juvenile side, but this is the adults, and he's such a punk. He's obviously still a little bit high, and he was mean. And he says, "Yeah," he says, "I like the marijuana with what the gangsters like to drink. A Hennessy, I like the pile of marijuana with a Hennessy on each side and the cocaine on top. That's like the cherry on top of the sundae." I said, "Well, that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly normal." And he says, "Get hip, old man. You only got sober because you got old." I said, No, I didn't get sober because I got old. I would have never got old if I didn't get sober. But he was having none of it. He started to turn mean. And this little punk, he says, I brought in the cookies, right? And he says, "Take those cookies and shove them up your ass." And not in a nice way either. I said, "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the meeting." Well, he went out. But I didn't get mad at him. The thing is, it trains me not to get angry, and I need a lot of that training because I get angry real quick but this has been a growth situation. But you know what? Later on, he apologized and he came back in and he listened very closely. You never know what's going to change somebody's mind. You don't know what's going to reach somebody. So I love that panel, and I love the panel at Lancaster Prison, and Gene and Vic came. This is their your third or fourth meeting today? Is that right? You stayed for the Spanish meeting? Okay, then you got permission to take a nap, Gene. So I love going to the prison panel, and you know, I go there for selfish reasons. This is just my opinion only, but I go there for selfishness. And Tony goes, and I tell Tony, I'm here for me. And Tony says, no, he says to the inmates, no, I'm here. We're not here for me. I'm here for you guys. Well, maybe so, but I'm going to the prison for myself, because if I'm not getting something out of it, I'm certainly not going to be there, right? There's got to be some kind of payoff. Do I want them to get something out of it? Of course I do. And if I have to help somebody else to help myself, well, then I guess I'll do it. but I'm a selfish person. We know that. So I'm going in to the yard one time, and the klaxon goes off, and all the guards got their vests and all the paraphernalia. They go charging through, right? The bell, the alarm's going off, the gates are slamming and everything. Oh, no, man. I told you at the beginning, my needs are simple. I realize that somebody, maybe they're getting the beat down, or maybe they're getting the taser, or the gas, or maybe they're getting stabbed or raped, or God knows what else. But what about my needs? What about me? I need my coffee. That's what I need. So the trusty guys, they say, oh yeah, we understand, man. How are they going to get my coffee now that they're on that lockdown? So they go into captain's office or whatever, the officer's office, they bring me out my coffee. See, we do that for one another in Alcoholics Anonymous. We go out of our way for that. My recovery is not built on convenience, it's built on inconvenience, going out of my way to go places. Another time I'm going in, and again the alarm goes off, right? Another lockdown, and everything's shut down and everything. I go out on the yard, and there's a big delay and everything, and I'm talking to the couple of inmates. He says, oh man, you should have been here a few minutes ago. He said, yeah, they just, what did they do, squirt the gas on him? What's that gas? They shoot the pepper spray on the guy and threw him in the cage. I said, oh, you couldn't wait 5 minutes? I wanted to do that. Well, I tell you, those guys, they have a great sense of humor. They don't mind a few jokes. And they do get out eventually. Some of them are never going home, like Vic says. Some of them never going home, but Earl got out. Earl got out after 35 years. And he came to our home group. He came to our men's group meeting, and I took him to the Adventurers Club, and I got high hopes for Earl. And that's amazing. He seems really sincere, and he spent here, I don't know, a couple of months here, and then he went back to Pennsylvania. He went back to Pennsylvania. He's no longer California's problem. And he hooked up with his PO in Pennsylvania, and come to find out his PO is that's a probation officer or parole officer, is in the fellowship, and now those two guys, the guy that did 35 years and his probation officer, they attend meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they sit side by side in the same meeting. That's pretty awesome. And if I can think that I can be even just one small part of that, that's kind of an honor. Kind of an honor to carry the message. How are we doing on time now?
Another 20 minutes.
Another 20 minutes? Haven't these people suffered enough?
I call it 15.
Pardon?
Call it 15.
Well, whatever I would say about this talk, I would think that nobody wants it to be longer. But my wife and I, Diane, who was my best friend and my partner in recovery in some respects. We go to Hawaii and we go to the meetings there on 12 Coconuts, right there in the Princess Park, where they have the meeting under the palm trees, right by the ocean there, and they do the hula, and they wear their the muumuus and everything, right? Yeah, and they wear their leis, and we go to other meetings there on the other side of the island, in the parking lot, on the sand, and wherever we go, we try to go to meetings. And catch a meeting. Went to meetings in Mexico, in Puerto Vallarta. For our second honeymoon, we went down there, right? This is going back a few years. And we got a place on the beach there, and we just land there. We go out to watch the sun go down, and we're having some kind of soft drink, lemonade or something, watching the sun go down at the ocean in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and we're sitting there and thinking, man, I could use a meeting, you know, and I went over to the bar, and I tried to ask the bartender, hey, you know any AA meetings? And I don't know what he said, but I walked over to the telephone, and right next to the telephone was the tiniest scrap of paper that said AA meeting, Casa de Colores, 12 noon, something like that. I said, where's this Casa de Colores? Casa de Colores, oh, it's only a block from here. I said, let's go. So we walk over there, and it's one of those, it's like a villa, right? It's all walled in. He's got 3 houses in there. We push the button, somehow we get in there, and it's a retired Berkeley professor. He says, I'm so happy to see you here. So we had the meeting. It was me and Diane and him and maybe a couple of other people, and we had our meeting right there. He says, why don't you stay for dinner? What else you got to do? So we stayed for dinner. He says, where are you staying? I said, oh, we're staying at the Hotel Marsol, right down at the pier, overlooking the ocean. And he says, oh, no, you're staying here. He says, you take that house over there. He says, he's got these houses all walled in, beautiful, you know, the swimming pool, the servants, the whole 9 yards. He says, you take that house over there. He said, you just stay there. It was like $12 a night or something. It was ridiculous, but it's a beautiful place. Well, we had a friend with us, and we took up 2 houses. I didn't know we weren't supposed to take up 2 houses. But it was wonderful. And he says, by the way, here's the keys to my car. Take anything you want. So we took off with this car. It was really a fantastic time, you know. One thing leads to another. And there's all these coincidences. And years later, maybe it wasn't that long later, but I found out that the house right next to Casa de Colores was Casa Douglas. Casa Douglas was owned by my stepfather's old associate. My stepfather was an old, not my drunk dad, my bio dad, but my stepfather was an old school Sicilian gangster from New Jersey. And Casa Douglas was his partner. And coat and tie every place they go, old school, right? Bookmaking operation. And they made a lot of money together, and they did a lot of crimes. They did a lot of gray market stuff and everything. But Casa de Colores was right there, and what I heard was that somebody had come there and beaten Hal Douglas to death and thrown him off his balcony. Right there. Very colorful experience. You know, the only reason I didn't go into that business, because it was right there. I was already working on in the beginning when I was a teenager. In fact, Diane used to work in the casino at the Rainbow and the Monterey Club. That was one of the first jobs. When I first met Diane, she needed a job. I made a phone call. You got a job at the casino. You go to work right away. So you might say I was kind of connected. But the reason I didn't go that way, because, you know, young people, they like to go their own way, right? They're rebellious. But it would have been very, very easy. I was already working my stepdad, he kind of retired from the illegal gambling business. He went into the vending machines, right? Got all the vending machines in the Rainbow and the Monterey Club, where there's a cigarette machine like every 10 feet. There were like 40 cigarette machines in those two card clubs. And I would go in there on Saturday and take out bags and bags of money, all cash, right? Just a tremendous amount of cash, just bags of money. Of course, I helped myself to anything I want. I was never short of money on that job, I'll tell you that much. And my stepdad, he would drive around his Cadillac. The trunk is like dragging almost on the ground. He's got I am not kidding you, so much cash in the back of that. And he did his own taxes. And I said, what are you doing your own taxes for? And he says, are you kidding? A Sicilian trust somebody else with their money? He says, you're crazy. But I loved him so much. And he would drink and drug and watch the football games and gamble and smoke the black Sherman cigarettes. And the day he died, he told my brother, he says, I got to get a hold of Stewart. He says, I want to get sober. He says, I want to go do that. I'm going to find that. He got me a hold of Stewart. And that day, he had a heart attack and died. And my brother saw him driving down the street the other way, and he waved my brother down. My brother picked him up, took him right there to the hospital, and he died that night. You know, I've heard it said, some people, it's never too late to get sober. Oh, yeah, it is. It is. And what a wonderful contribution he would have made. Really, it would have been, because he's the third grade education, but he's brilliant. He could have been a senator, he led a charmed life. You know, there's a lot of those people in AA. He could have been a senator. He could have done anything he wanted. I mean, it was just an amazing story. And I used to hate him and plot his death, you know, but we go through a lot of changes. And it's been a long, long road. We went to the International Convention in San Diego. Now, the last thing I wanted to do was go to a convention, because I don't like people, and I don't like people in large quantities, and I don't like people that come and talk to me, and I don't want to talk to people. But Diane, she says, oh, let's go. All the women are, oh, yeah, oh, goody. But I went, and it was fantastic, because the whole in San Diego, it's a wonderful way to see that town. And her mother was still alive at that time, and she lived in El Cajon. We got on the trolley. The trolley goes downtown there in San Diego. We got on the trolley to take the trolley downtown to the convention center. And the trolley stops, and all these people get on, all the Irish contingent. It's all the Irish ladies and the Irish sober guys, and they get on that trolley, and the Irish women, they got the woolen knit sweaters, and they're all singing the body Irish songs, and they sing. We're on this trolley, the railroad car, right? And they're singing, and it's just beautiful. And this old Irish guy sits down next to me, and he's got the longest face. He's like, oh. And I like to mess with people. I like to stir up the shit and watch it fly a little bit. You know, I like to have fun with people. I says, oh, you're from Ireland, honey? He says, oh, yeah. I said, hey, I guess they got a lot of good whiskey there. And his face just lights up. He says, the best. He says, oh, the best whiskey in the world. I said, oh, really? Because I hear the Scottish make the best whiskey. Oh, man, that was on, right? So I stir it up. And anyway, that convention was fantastic. The whole waterfront, right? The people are walking. Every hotel is filled up for miles around, and people are taking the trolleys, taxis, buses, everything to get down there to the convention. And they have if you've never been to the International Convention, they have what they call the flag ceremony. The flag ceremony, where 200, I don't know how many flags, maybe 200 flags from every nation of somebody that's there from that nation, the flag comes in. Like the Olympics, something like that, but I think more moving, because the flag comes in from Saudi Arabia, it comes from Korea, it comes from Italy, it comes from Egypt, it comes from South Africa, all these places. It comes from Iran, it comes from every place, Mexico, The flag comes from Italy, and everybody cheers. And the flag comes from Ireland, and the crowd goes wild because the Irish are very well represented in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? But anyway, it's very moving, it's very uplifting, because this is the gift that United States has brought to the world. And I'm very, very proud of that. It's very moving. It wants to lift you to tears. And then we go to the Jack Murphy Stadium. But, okay, what did they have to rent? 1,000 buses to take all the people to? Unbelievable. And all the people are standing there waiting for the buses for like an hour and a half, just waiting and waiting and waiting. I hate waiting, but very, very patiently. And the people were very loving and very patient, and it was a great opportunity. I talked to people, I said, oh, you're from Finland, huh? What do you drink in Finland? Vodka. Of course, every place I ask, well, you're from Armenia, huh? What do they drink in Armenia? He says, I don't know what it's called, but it's that green crap. But I want to hear. But they're so loving and wonderful. And they say, come to Ireland. Come to our meetings. Come to South Africa. Come to our meetings. We'd love to have you. And this started the germ of me thinking, right? And every place I go, we've been to meetings in Alaska. Fantastic. Very different, right? The guys come in because very dangerous. They're out in the sticks. Every place they go, they bring their rifles. So they bring in their special weapons loads, right? He says, "Oh, I make this my special load for bear," and they're bringing these into the meetings and showing what they use to protect themselves from bear, because a little gun's not going to do it. They need like a big gun to stop a grizzly. And every place we go, and I just love it. Doesn't matter where you. I'm sure there are some places where AA is not, but that just means we have the opportunity to bring it. Cook Hospital in on Oahu. I went to the Cook Hospital where they had all these young people with the wristbands on, you know, from being arrested or in the hospital or everything. Get to bring some recovery to them. And all the places that we get to go. And anyway, Jack Murphy Stadium, we have some fantastic speakers there, really. 60,000. We took over the whole town. 60,000 people joining hands for the Our Father. Very, very powerful. And we went to the International in Minnesota, same ceremony. And we meet some of the same people, some of our friends from our clubhouse there. And I see them walking down, and San Antonio. I got no reason to go to San Antonio, but if they're having a convention there, I'm going. And it's fantastic, and they got the river walk, and you get to see the whole town, and San Antonio's never seen anything like it. Enrico, I remember you from last year. It's very good to see you here again. San Antonio, nobody's drinking. All the bars are empty, but the people are just delighted because we spend money, because we got a little money these days. And the shopkeepers say, we're not letting you going home. You're staying here with us. We're keeping you here. We like you people. And I will tell you that the people of Texas are very, very proud of their hospitality. They treated us just wonderful. And they are very serious about their barbecue, too. They're very proud of their barbecue. And I have to say, very honestly, I've never had better barbecue in my whole life. And we even talked about going back there just to have some of that Augie's barbecue, because I suppose Atlanta, I'm going to Atlanta. We don't know how we're going to get there. I don't know if we have enough money. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we're going. And the trick to that, just say, okay, I'm going. Just show a green light and have a little faith, and we're going to make it. I know that. I'll sleep on the benches if I have to, but with the hospitality I got here, probably I won't have to. And the taxi drivers, you know, we pile like 6 people into he's looking at his watch already. I see you over there. And the taxi drivers, you just go like this. The taxi driver, okay, I'll wind up. The taxi drivers say, when we pile so many people in there, it's illegal, but he's laughing so hard, he's never seen anything like this. We just have a great time. We are people that absolutely insist on having fun. I have a lot of character defects, but ingratitude is not one of them. If I have to cash in all my chips tomorrow, I shall be profoundly grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you.